your host, Rosie Q, here on Pro Delivery Tips. And today, let's get right into it. I'm going to give you guys my gig delivery state of address. I'm going to make predictions on what I believe is going to happen over the next 3 months, the next year, and the next 3 years within the gig delivery economy specifically. First, I think in order for me to explain my hypothesis, I need to explain or at least bring up some history and some economic facts. So one thing we need to know is that there are microeconomies and there are macroeconomies. Macroeconomies are the big economies of the world. So a country's economy, such as the US, Russia, England. The whole economy, that is the macroeconomy. Within the macroeconomy, there are microeconomies. And then what I like to call super microeconomies within some microeconomies, which is just another microeconomy within a microeconomy. I identify the gig delivery economy as a super microeconomy. Reason being, the gig delivery economy is an economy within the gig economy space. The gig economy space is an economy within the US economy. So, next we need to understand some history, specifically the history of the middle class, their financial behaviors during times of economic decline, as well as during recessions, and things that also affect them during those times. How do things line up, and what things generally have happened through them through history? History generally repeats itself, not necessarily the same way, but within the same ballpark, I guess I could say. Or if we're painting with a color, last time it was dark red, this time it's light red or magenta, something of that nature. So, things that have generally happened with the middle class financial habits during economic downturns and recessions. Generally, they will consolidate debt, and generally, they will spend less on luxury goods and services. They will tighten their budgets and start spending less in general, and they will be looking to save in any possible ways they can. And they're clinging, a lot of the middle class cling to their job security, and they try to keep their jobs to keep things afloat. However, things that do affect them are generally during economic downturns, there are layoffs. And we're already starting to see that in the current. But there are layoffs. Businesses cut hours because they start to feel the pinch. Because what happens during economic downturns, usually different people will feel it at different times. But generally, from what I've seen, generally producers feel the pinch first. They feel the higher prices to make their products. And because it costs more to produce their products, they have to offset that cost onto somebody else. And so they offset their cost on suppliers. And then suppliers will generally have to pay more for this produce that they're trying to buy in order to sell to consumers. And then so suppliers don't want to have to eat the cost either. So they generally will kick the can down the road and offset their costs onto consumers. And so consumers will see higher prices. And that brings us now to the current. where we're seeing those exact things happening in this very moment. Last month in February, the I believe it's the PPI, but it is the economic data that goes over producer cost, our goods cost, in order to either make the goods or make the raw materials, those costs. And the readings were higher than predicted, and they've been on a higher trajectory for some time. So producers are starting to have to pay more, and that means suppliers are starting to have to pay more, and that means consumers are having to pay more. And so we're seeing that in housing prices currently. We're seeing that We're seeing that in food cost currently. We're seeing that in gas prices. So we're seeing this in many different sectors of the U.S. economy right now, on top of having supply shortages in different sectors of the U.S. economy. And so this is going to cause economic slowdown, as we're already seeing, and less spending by the middle class. And let me just emphasize again why it's so important that we in the gig economy pay attention to the middle class, because they are the majority of our customer base. Our consistent customer base is the majority of the middle class, because they are the majority of the ones who can afford our service, and they're looking for that convenience because they may not have the time. A lot of people in the middle class have I'm not even going to get into that, but they have the means currently to do that. However, as they're being pinched, they're going to be spending less on one of those areas that I spoke of earlier: luxury goods and services. And as I said, I believe gig delivery within the gig economy, not the whole gig economy, but gig delivery specifically, is a luxury. Spending an extra $50 to $100 a month to get your food delivery is not something that most people need. It's something that most people want. Now, there are a minority of people who do need the service, but the majority of people do not need to have their food delivered. They want to have their food delivered. And so I believe they're going to start cutting back over the next 3 months as things are revealed, as inflation continues to rise, as gas prices continue to rise, which as of Friday this week, I believe it was March the 3rd, their oil prices are $115 a barrel. And so gas prices are going to be going up here soon. Housing prices are going to continue to rise, and people are going to start really feeling the pinch, and they're going to have to start changing their habits. And with changing their habits and spending less with these gig delivery platforms, there's going to be less money available. Because what's going to happen, just like has happened now, these gig delivery platforms are going to offset some of their losses onto gig delivery drivers by changing their pay models and doing any and everything that they can to minimize their losses, which is what they've always done. They haven't put drivers first. They've generally put their profits and bottom lines before drivers. That's been historically what has happened. And we see that through why things had to be formed, such as Prop 5. Why there are legislations out trying to make gig delivery contractors employees, are giving them more worker rights. But I digress. Once these companies are making less money, they change their pay models, and they have less customers, there's going to be less money available. I believe that the majority of the gig delivery apps will lose 50% of their customer base over the next year. I believe over the next 3 months, they will lose 25%. And slowly over the next year, they will chip away. Less and less and less people will be able to afford getting gig delivery. Because soon there's going to be more layoffs due to all the things I stated earlier with higher prices and how businesses operate during that time. So they're going to start laying more people off. People are going to have less disposable income. They're going to be spending less money. And I believe for everyday or part-time delivery drivers in the gig economy who just kind of do it as it's just a way to make extra money. I don't really have a strategy. I don't really have a plan. I just kind of go out there and just do whatever, accept whatever, and, don't have too much of a plan, or I just have a small plan or a basic plan, such as just dollars to miles. I believe that there will be drivers who will lose 50% of their income, current income. I believe top earning gig delivery drivers will lose 25 to 50% of their income, depending on how they maneuver. Once they start kicking in their strategies, changing things, doing things differently, making different decisions, and, a lot of people will get put to the test. We'll see, who goes ahead and sticks with gig delivery economy during these times and whose strategies and things actually work. When the chips are down. So, me, for example, minimally, I work 8 to 10 hours a day and make minimally $200 a day. With that, if I lose 25% of my income, I lose $50. That means in the same 8 to 10 hours, I would make $150. So I'd be making like $15 to $13 an hour, I believe, or $13 to $15 an hour. I mean, it's better than some warehouse work and working in the office and stuff like that. But for me personally, it would gig delivery would no longer really be worth it for me as a full-time occupation. Currently, I do it 6 to 7 days a week. Here over the next year and next 3 months, I will be rationing it down to 1 to 2 days a week, where it is most profitable for me to work in the gig delivery economy. However, we all just have to think about what is the next step. What are you going to do if this does happen? Because, it very well could not. Maybe things turn around. Maybe the Fed does some stuff. Maybe Biden, the Republicans, the Democrats come together. Stimulus, I don't know. There's all types of possibilities. I'm not going to try to guess exactly what's going to happen because just like any economic downturn, you can't predict everything. Nobody knows what all is going to happen. You ask one economist what's going to happen, he'll tell you one story. You ask another economist, he'll tell you another story. Me, I'll tell you another story. And I'm not even technically an economist. I'm just a guy who's interested in economy, and I studied economy in college. And so I'm interested in, I just talk. I just use it to my advantage, the information I've learned. And, I'd like people to think about these things that I've brung up, within your own business, so that you can position yourself to succeed during these times. And just to give you some insight, so I can give you some practical steps on what you can do to succeed, I'll just give me, again, as an example. What I am doing and what I have been doing since 2 years ago, I started transitioning to doing lawn care. Because I believe lawn care is a business that will hold its water for the majority, I'll say it'll hold the majority of its water during the economic downturn. Because no matter what is happening in the economy, trees are still growing, bushes are still growing, grass is still growing, it needs to be cut. Weeds are still, just everything. Lawn care always needs to be done. And people who have homes that are worth $300,000, $500,000, $1 million homes, those type of people are not going to have their houses looking, which a lot of them believe is one of their greatest investments, looking bad. So they're going to continue to pay for it if they can. They may cut back. Some people who are getting cuts twice a month will go to once a month, and things of that nature. But I'm preparing for those type of things. And so that is the direction I am taking. So I believe people should think of what things will always need to be needed in a recession. Some other things I can think of, construction, it may not be as plentiful, but construction, they're still going to be building stuff because there's always still going to be people with money, companies with money, funds with money, hedge funds with money. So people are always still going to be investing. And it's going to be easier for them to invest because things are going to be on sale for them. So construction will be a thing. Manual labor jobs. A lot of people don't necessarily want to do hard work anymore. So doing manual labor, doing what people don't want to do, which is a great strategy for a lot of things in business, going to places that people don't want to go, because you'll be able to capture a wider market share for your business. But just looking at things like that. So I'm sure that there are plenty of other things that will still succeed. And you just have to position yourself in order to be able to, weather the storm of an economic downturn, and then possibly be able to profit from it. So, this is Rosie Q, your host, here at Pro Delivery Tips. This is the gig delivery economy state of address. And I just want to wish everybody good luck.